ITIL V3, how it's going to be different for you to rejoin and recertify yourself for ITIL 4. We have Harry Chan, who's an ITIL expert, who's going to lead this presentation. So I'm just going to do the initial introduction and then pass over to him, and then Harry can go on and just do a few slides on the difference between ITIL 3 and ITIL 4. Harry, I'm sure I'm audible to you, and can you just speak and just ensure that we can hear you?
Yes, Amir. Thanks
All
for
right.
that.
You're welcome. All right. Okay. So we'll just have a quick intro on PMO Bytes first of all, as PMO Bytes is doing this initiative and presentation. Let me just go on to the next slide. Hold on, let me just see if it's coming up. All right. Can you guys see the second slide now? Shabir, can you confirm? Still loading. Right. Harry, can you see the slide now? It's come up. I've got a message. Just hold on.
I see the slide which says about PMO Bytes.
All right, great. Okay. So PMO Bytes was initiated in 2017, myself as a founder. And the vision behind this was to make project management simple to all professions worldwide. We started in Mumbai in 2017 with a small office. And mainly we were having business over internet, like e-learning modules and mainly courses, teaching courses virtually. And we did a few partnerships just to make sure that we are accredited and having the latest information in our portfolio. So we did some partnerships with ILX, with different entities who are into artificial intelligence, because our vision was and mission was basically to have not just courses which are like typical classical, but they are blended with the latest technology which is in the market right now. That is the reason we went ahead and did these partnerships. Just 1 minute, I'm again getting some messages. Hold on. Can you give the link to the one? Yeah. So sorry about that. Yeah. So that's the reason we had done some partnerships, and we went ahead and tied up with the latest technology players. So Aptech was one of the people who are into project management and artificial intelligence. They actually do kind of artificial intelligence over scheduling to risk assess and ensure that whatever issues are going to happen in terms of planned trending are picked up earlier and been controlled. So this is one of the things we are also working on. Plus, our vision was not to, like I said, just not to have it basically just as a classical, because we have, I've been into this field from last 20 years, and I have noticed that still project management with all the different courses and bodies involved is not that, still not that clear to a lot of people, and it's not that simple that any layman can pick it up and start following it, as a methodology, as simple controls. So that was one of the vision I had, that how we could make it more simpler, with all what we have in hand, and come up with something which any person in his day-to-day life can actually start applying and organize himself towards mini projects, small projects, home projects, whatever he is doing, can apply it easily and get it through, And in those lines, actually, I got incubated with an idea. I had pitched in DIC, Digital Incubation Center, by MOTC here, Ministry of Transportation and Communication, where I picked up some lacks in the construction industry, that the way it is so complex with so many stakeholders involved. And I am pitching like a product which is actually going to make, in the closing stage, the punch process, which they call it, with the issues which they arise during the closure and handover, can be automated, and can be done, automated, and can be done in a much faster way. So that is the vision behind how to simplify it, how to make it very simple, straightforward, with a few application features which can make it easier, more efficient. So that is another initiative we are working, part of the product implementation. So we have portfolio of training and we have a portfolio of product implementation, so professional services. We aim to have like the best one-stop shop for all the resources, basically, which will be blended with real life experience. So every resource we come up with will be my experience of 20 years. I have experts like Harry and different other people who will be joining, who have joined my team. They're all going to actually share their experiences, and everything will be taught well, so that when we launch it, that it will be very useful for all the people around the globe. That is the idea. Courses, we are actually increasing our portfolio in a lot of different courses. We have PMP, we have ITIL now, we have Prince 2. We are also thinking of introducing TOGAF, COBIT. All these courses are in line, in the portfolio coming up. So this is a little short introduction about PMO Bytes. I switched to full screen mode, so I suppose now you guys can see. Yeah. All right. So partners wise, like I said, that we had initially done a partnership. Okay, this is the recent partnership which we have done with PeopleCert. PeopleCert is an examination body, and now is actually linked up with XLS for all their partnerships, initiatives. So whoever wants to become a partner of XLS, they have to go via PeopleCert, and they have to follow some procedures and ensure that they are the right parties and become like an authorized training center or an affiliate. So we have gone ahead and become an authorized training center to conduct Prince 2 and ITIL 4 foundation courses, which is the main body is XLS. So we are in line actually a partner of PeopleCert and XLS both. We are also a partner of ILX, been there now for last 2 years as a partner of them. ILX has expertise, basically not just in providing courses, but also they have expertise in giving e-learning modules which are self-based learning. People can actually go ahead easily take their courses and understand the subject. Okay, so I just got a comment that they're not able to see the screen. Is the screen shown properly? Yeah. Okay, with the notes. Okay, hold on, just let me try this again. What about now? Still? Is it better now? Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Got it. All right. So I was talking about ILX. So ILX have e-learning self-paced modules. So, and they are linked with different learning bodies or authorized bodies, which actually the organizations who are actually doing or holding the, the courses themselves. So XLS being the main body, primary body who has actually a portfolio of ITIL, Prince 2 and different courses. APM is another body, PMI is another body. You guys must be familiar with all these bodies, Lean Six Sigma, APMG. So they are linked and they are partnered to all these bodies, and they have come up with self-paced learning, e-learning modules, which are very simple, very straightforward. Anybody can actually buy these courses, and there is a pass guarantee behind it because it's very, very well made. In fact, I have done some courses through them, and I certified myself in like managing successful program, for example. So, and it was very straightforward. I just followed the module. I didn't go for any other resources, just use those resources. And I was able to, in one shot, certify myself, and there are, it's just not that e-learning typical one. It is with case studies. It is with, interactive questionnaires, plus exam mock-ups. So that's how it becomes like a full package, very easy to follow, understand, and then you can go ahead with certification. IT Trainers is another partner of mine, which I have recently tied up with for course content. So whatever content actually you see in our courses, right now are being certified and by supplied as a white label product by IT Trainer. So we conduct PMP training, blockchain training, ITIL 4 training. All this is actually with the course content of IT Trainer as a base. Leapist is another platform. Is it coming up? All right, now. Okay. Leapist is a platform where people actually, our students, candidates who are join us for registering their exams, going through the e-learning packages, and have, it's like in a platform where they have their own area. So all the course material and the structure and everything is in that platform, easily accessible. So they have their own user ID, password, credentials, which they go log in and use this platform for the course resources. DIC, like I said, Digital Incubation Center from MOTC Qatar, has given me kind of an office space here in Qatar as a startup to run PMO Bytes office, and currently the trainings also are running in this premises. They are actually promoting our courses as we are in a way partner to them even. 360 PMO is a Canadian company who's actually specialized in agile certified professional training. We have also partnered with them. So if there is any ACP course we're going to conduct through their material and their course portfolio. Method 1 to 3, since I said initially that we are not just into training, we are into consultancy solution provision also. So there is one partnership which we have done with Method 1 to 3 to provide consultancy service around project management office. So if there is a PMO office who needs to get mature in a different level, or needs to get set up in an organization, initial base processes and templates and structures what they require, we can give a consultancy, go into their accounts, understand, assess, and then perform kind of a PMO for them, and we use this method 1 to 3 as a base. Courses, we have different courses which we have actually started given to the market. Is the screen again visible? All right, good. We have courses as e-learning. Wherever you say online, due to ILX partnership, all these courses we have as e-learning, self-paced module. So anybody who's interested in kind of e-learning, who doesn't want to go for a full-time course in a classroom or virtual learning, and doesn't have the time even to dedicate himself for 2 hours, 3 hours on a week or something like that, he can actually just go ahead and take a e-learning self-paced, where he just, as and when he gets time while traveling, going anywhere, in office you get 10-15 minutes, wherever you have the time, you just log into this module, keep following the module. So it's well structured. It has like a kind of a pattern plan where you keep following it and ensure that you get completed within like 3 months, 4 months, and you will have enough knowledge to go yourself and certify for the different courses which are listed here. So we have PMP, CAPM, APM, PQ, APM, PMQ, PFQ. Lean Sigma is actually classroom based, so that we don't have an online, where it doesn't say online. Financial for non-financial manager, managing benefits, change management, and then to just say Prince 2 Agile, MSP, MOP. So all these courses are there, and actually it helps a lot of candidates and professionals to go certify themselves without actually going outside their normal routine, so they actually, like I myself, I was so busy I couldn't do my MSP, where I was thinking for a long time. I took this initiative of doing e-learning, self-based learning. I went through this module as and when I used to get time. Like I allotted myself 15-20 minutes a day and just kept logging in, following the courses. And after a 3-4 months duration, I was able to complete all the course material they had, did some mock-ups, did the exam, and certified myself. So that's how it is. It's very simple. You don't need anyone's help after that. In fact, a lot of companies have actually, not just the users, even the companies have taken these modules and applied in their HR structures. So whoever employee has a need to do any certification, these companies have this module which they provide to the employees directly, and they go ahead and certify themselves, because now the trend is changing. Everybody is behind cost saving and efficiency, and they don't want the employee to be out of office for any certification. They want them to be certified but not go outside the normal office zone. So that is the reason they are adhering to this e-learnings and applying this as an option for the employees. Now we will go ahead and actually hand over to Harry to go on, present his profile, and continue the session about ITIL 4 differences to ITIL 3. That was a little overview. If any questions, we can take it at the end of the session. We'll just allot 5-10 minutes in the end to take any questions. So if any questions are related to PMO Bytes, I'll jump in. Any questions henceforth, Harry will take it over. Harry, you're in now.
Thanks, Amir, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. This is the slide shows the brief about my experience and my current profile. I have been into service management for the past 13 years, certified with ITIL Expert, CISA, PMP, Prince2, CGIT, and COBIT. And my experience completely is like it has started from a service desk analyst role to a delivery manager handling multiple accounts, that is multiple customers, completely into IT service management area, service desk and network operation center, other like minor project development activities, all these things. And my current role is a GRC consultant in a reputed bank in Qatar here. And I have been a freelance trainer for the last 4 years, having got opportunity to work with many multinational companies and offline programs as well over LinkedIn and all these things. I could train about at least 150 batches so far on ITIL and project management. Okay, so this webinar focuses on the ITIL 4 product, which has been recently launched by Axelos. Those who have been with ITIL for quite some time, they might have been already aware of this. ITIL has evolved over the years. One moment. Let me. Amay, could you please go to the next slide?
Sure. There is a lag little bit, just takes a little time to move on the next slide. All right, it's on.
Okay, this would be our agenda for today. ITIL overview. As I said, those who have been into IT service management industry for quite some time, you might be following ITIL practices already. So if we have to talk about evolution of ITIL, it all started about some 3 decades back, where the UK government, which was owning ITIL, thought that they should have a practice or a framework which can tell them whether the money they are investing in procuring the services is adding value to the business or not. Right, so that's how it started as that small idea. Later, when OGC, that is Office of Government of Commerce, the UK government collaborated with companies like Microsoft and IBM, it got evolved to a much better shape, which is a best practice framework where everyone tried their own processes and practices within their work environment, suitable to their work environments, and then shared with each other, saying what works and what does not work, right? Or what works better. So that's when ITIL was made open to public. Initially, it was only for the government organizations, but later it became public, and that's the reason ITIL is known as a public framework. So everyone who has access to ITIL framework publication can understand that and adopt and then adapt as per your environment, business environment, right? So that's ITIL. And the evolution after these big companies started collaborating, it got multiple changes, and the very recent one was ITIL 4. Before that, we had a service lifecycle approach where they were saying that every service has a life cycle starting from end to like start to end, right? So it was divided into 5 phases: service strategy, design, service design, and then service transition, and then operations, and then continual service improvement, which was enveloping all the previous 4 service lifecycle stages. And within each service lifecycle stage, we had specific processes listed under them. That was ITIL V3. But now in ITIL V4, the main reason for the change is, so far we have been process dominant. That is, every design, like every service lifecycle stage had few processes, and we were concentrating on those processes. And the reason of getting into process thinking in those days, that was in the previous time, is to gain some control over the growing number of information systems and the growing data, right? And data and information systems were becoming so critical for any organization that without an IT system, an organization cannot decide how they would be able to sustain in their business. So it became so critical. So ITIL, being one of the many such frameworks, helping organizations to have control over the cost and having control over the quality and also the customer satisfaction, they defined this process approach. But now, in the last 1 or 1.5 decade, if we observe, the way the business has evolved was not imagined some time back. We didn't know that we will completely rely on a chatbot or artificial intelligence systems to get a response to your query without talking to a human being, right? So it happened so quickly that the change or the need for speed has increased a lot now. So in this situation, relying on the process approach is not wrong, but it would have a side effect, which is like increased cost, or your speed of delivery would be impacted. So to come out of this and to cater many such challenges aligned to the new era technologies like your artificial intelligence or your Internet of Things or your complete digitization, your cloud technologies, your hardware turning out to be virtual, to overcome all these challenges, ITIL has thought a little different, and it has modified its framework in a way that any new framework, any new process framework can be aligned with ITIL now. You can work with Agile using your ITIL framework. You can adopt a DevOps approach using your ITIL. So ITIL became a template now which can be used with any other best practice framework. And just to reiterate, whether if it is ITIL or PMP or Prince2 or Six Sigma or Lean, any framework The main objective is only to control the cost and improve the quality, which in turn is increasing the customer satisfaction. So whatever framework you talk about, the end objective is the same, right? But ITIL is specifically to the service management, and DevOps is something to do with continuous integration and continuous delivery. Project management is to make sure that projects are done within the budget, within the time, and within the scope, right? So every framework has its own benefit. At the same time, all the benefits summed together is the cost control, quality efficiency, and customer satisfaction, which in turn increases your return on investment, and your sustainability into the business is increasing, and the organization is going to the next level into the business, right? So that's the motive of any framework. So that was with ITIL 3, right? Okay, we'll move to the next slide here. Okay, service lifecycle approach was what we were following in the ITIL 3 and partially in ITIL 2 as well. And now in ITIL 4, we have a service value approach where it says a service is delivered to the customer or the stakeholder, which in turn creates value to the customer, right? And now in ITIL 4, we are also talking about value co-creation, where value should not only be delivered to the customer, but also to all the stakeholders involved. It could be your partner, or it could be you as a service provider, or it could be any other investor taking part of this service management area, right? So that's the value co-creation for both customer, service provider, and any other stakeholder. But in ITIL V3, we were focusing only on value creation for the customer, right? And ITIL V3 was talking about 4 P's of service management, which were people, partners, process, and products. The same thing, which was very nicely defined in ITIL V3, but the focus on this area was very less. People could not gauge the importance of it, and people or the organizations or the ITIL practitioners could not use these 4 P's of service management to the optimum level where we could derive those 4 P's of service management. So in order to make it simple, ITIL 4 has renamed them as dimensions of service management, and the same 4 P's have been changed a little, and more focus has been made or given to these dimensions, which we will see in the upcoming slide. And as we discussed earlier, ITIL V3 was more process oriented. We had 5 life cycle stages, and each life cycle stage, like service strategy, service design, service transition, service operations, and continual service improvements, all these 5 stages had few processes within them, and we had inputs, outputs, and the activities within the processes defined in ITIL V3. But now, we had little challenge with the process-oriented framework, as we couldn't cope up with the speed, or we could not be more agile the way business environment was changing. The customer requirements have been changing. The technology which is termed new today is becoming old next year, right? So these challenges could not be overcome by having a process-oriented. So we took an agile approach and made we made ITIL V4 practice oriented. So here, ITIL 4 has given 34 practices and practices like incident management or problem management or even your project management. So these are the general areas which can be covered throughout your service lifecycle. It's not defined to one specific activity, but the same practice can be applicable throughout your service management framework. So we will get into the list of practices which can give us a better idea about that. So this practice also has processes within that. So this practice doesn't eliminate the need of practice, a process. So in short, ITIL 4 is not abandoning the processes completely, but it has positioned the processes in a different way along with other resources that can be used to respond whenever a situation arises, whenever a new situation or a changing environment arises. So to sum it up again, ITIL 4 does not eliminate the process approach completely. It terms it as practice approach, but the practice approach has process within it. Okay, and the next one, no focus on changing business and technical environment. This we have already discussed, and now ITIL 4 is more agile than it was earlier, and the same with the next point as well. And in ITIL V3 we had 26 processes and 4 functions, and now all together are 34 practices, which are areas combining the value to the co-creation of the value. That's for the customer. And so these the 34 practices keep in mind the dimensions, the 4 dimensions of service management here, and every activity within the practice keeps in mind the one of these 4 dimensions and all the 4 dimensions of the service management. And in ITIL V3, because of the service lifecycle stage approach, few processes were being implemented and managed in silos, that they were getting isolated. But now, because of the practice-oriented approach, everything is getting integrated. That's a main advantage here. So if you may have any questions, please put in the chat window. We can take it up. How do we define a service in ITIL? The definition of service has not changed from ITIL V3 and V4 much. It's only that we added the word called co-creation. So basically, the service is a means of enabling value creation and this value creation is for the customer and the service provider and for any stakeholder who is involved in this, by facilitating outcomes that customer wants to achieve. So if a customer wants to use a taxi application to hire a cab, so when he sits into the cab and reaches the destination he wants to go to, that's when the service is fulfilled. And if the journey has been smooth as per the customer expectations, that's when the customer can tell you whether your service has delivered value to him or not. And we have to remember that we as a service provider cannot claim that we have delivered value to the customer. Value is always defined by a customer. So based on the customer experience, customer will be able to tell us whether our service has delivered him value or not. It's not only taking the customer to his desired destination. It's also giving the comfort to the customer which we promised, whether it is the timeliness or the cleanliness of the vehicle or the navigation or the etiquettes of the driver, anything, right? So all these are different parameters based on which customer will perceive whether your service has added value to him or not. And without the customer having to manage specific costs and risks. So whenever we talk about service, it always comes with some cost. But as a customer, you are only paying the price tag attached to the service. But behind the price tag, there is some effort involved, there is some infrastructure cost involved, which the customer is not getting into. So that's how we define a service. So it says a means of enabling value co-creation by facilitating the outcome that the customer wants to achieve without the customer having to bear specific costs and risk. Right? So why are we talking about risk? If I have to go to a very basic example, let's say I have to construct a house, and if I do not want to spend money on an architect who is an expert in his field, I myself, because I am the landlord, and if I directly give a contract to someone who can build the house for me, I cannot prepare a plan and give it to him. Because if the plan goes wrong, all the money invested into that goes in vain. So that's the reason. So that's a risk. And that's the reason I am seeking help from an architect who will eliminate that risk of me lacking some expertise and me doing something wrong with because I'm unaware of that. So that's how we define a service, right? And now we were talking about 4 dimensions of service management. In ITIL V3, they simply gave us 4 P's, which says people, processes, partners, and products. If you see this picture, we still have those. We have people here, we have products, we have processes, we have partners. But the way it is repositioned in ITIL V4 is these became very critical now. The 4 dimensions of service management now, collectively, these are very critical to the facilitation of the value to the customer and all the other stakeholders involved. And how are we doing it? By creating a product or a service which the stakeholders will use, right? And service management, again, it is different from one organization to another organization. If it's a small organization, they may not need all the 34 practices, or there may not be the scope for having all the 34 practices. But if it's a big organization doing having a portfolio of n number of services and having a global reach in the market, they might be using all the 34 practices. So the way service management is done from one company to another company is different. And again, it depends on the culture of the organization. It depends on the geography of the organization, right? It depends on the people and the culture of the people within the organization. So once the culture at the top is set to be using effective service management, it flows to the bottom level. It does not happen the other way. But whenever you use any best practice, that has to come from the top management. The top management reviews and says that this is the best framework for our organization, suiting our culture and business environment. That's when it flows to the bottom level and it's taken care. So, so is the service management. And if we see the picture, we have other factors, external factors, which are influencing the way you do the service management in your organization. So you have the political factors, you have the economic factors, you have the social factors, technological factors, legal factors, environmental factors. All these factors are beyond your control, but they still influence your organization. So the ITIL practitioners, while defining their service management framework within their organizations, have to understand how these external factors can influence them and how to counter them, or how to keep them in mind in designing your internal framework. Okay, it's taking a little time for it to move. Okay, and Axelos has launched a book or a publication called ITIL Practitioner somewhere in mid 2017, which was assumed to be a blockbuster because the way it has given a practical approach to the ITIL concepts was very good. Unfortunately, the course or the product didn't reach the audience as expected, and the reasons could be many. It could be the positioning of the positioning within the market, or the timing of the product, whatever it is. But when ITIL Practitioner publication was launched, it came up with 9 guiding principles for ITIL. So initially, when ITIL published those books in V3, it was only the 5 publications which were catering to each service lifecycle stage. They did not have a separate publication for ITIL Foundation. They did not have separate publication for ITIL Expert or MILC, then modules. But later, when they identified that it was little challenge for ITIL practitioners to collate the information and give the proper value or utilize the ITIL framework to the complete extent, that's when they launched this course called ITIL Practitioner, which was giving a complete practical approach how to use ITIL or how to implement ITIL in a simplistic way. Now, in ITIL 4, those 9 principles have been realigned, and it became 7 guiding principles. And within ITIL 4, if you have a choice of reading any one chapter out of the whole book, I would suggest, if you go through the 7 guiding principles, even if you let go all the other things, like unless you are seriously going for the exam, you will still gather all the gist of IT. That's the beauty of these guiding principles. And these guiding principles are not only fit for your service management framework, but any best practice framework you want to implement within your organization, or to be more precise, even in your personal life. If you are looking for any development, if you go through these 7 guiding principles, I'm very sure that it will have a positive impact on your personal and professional life, and even in your organizational practice. So that's the strength of these 7 guiding principles. So because we have limited time, I am not discussing all these points in detail, but I would only give you 1 or 2 sentences about each. First, focus on value. It says that within an organization, whoever you are, wherever you are, and whatever your resources are, if you are doing something, it has to add value. We have to think about whether what I do is adding value or not. If it does not value, it doesn't make sense whether we do it or not, right? So that's focusing on value. And starting where you are. Start where you are. In a lot of organizations, we see that whenever management changes, they scrap the old processes, or they scrap the old methodologies and old technologies, and they say we have to rebuild everything, as if the organization was completely in a futile state earlier before they joined. But that's a wrong approach. First, we assess where we are, and then see whatever we can reuse and start from there. That's this principle. So it is saving your lot of resources, and it is also respecting the work which has done by the previous guys, or the previous whatever it is, right? So start where you are. Progress iteratively with feedback. Don't wait to complete your product or service, and don't wait for the customer to tell you when he is consuming the service whether it is good or bad. take the feedback from the very beginning. Whenever you are in key phases, involve the customer or other stakeholders, whoever are important, gather their feedback, and then keep moving on. It's always important to bear in mind that if the customer is rejecting your product after it reaches to the consumer, the end user, the loss is not only financial, it's also related to your reputation and a lot of other stuff. But imagine after having a prototype, if you are showing it to the customer, and if the customer is saying, yes, this is what I want, then you are confident that at least you are moving in the right direction, right? So always progress iteratively with feedback. Collaborate and promote visibility. In many organizations, we see that one team does not know what the other team does, and we do not know how each one is adding value. So use tools like your Kanban board, or be more agile, be more visible, and this will help the organization to have a very positive impact. People keep talking to each other, and they talk about what they do, and they learn what you do, and it avoids anything which is in silos, and it promotes that collaboration, which is helping you to create the overall value. Think and work holistically, very much related to the previous one. Think not only about what you do, but think the work which you are doing is going to which stakeholder, and how is that stakeholder using your work? Is it helping that stakeholder to achieve his objective? So think not just about your work, but have a holistic view. So this is where we are saying every person is contributing in a way or the other for the organization to reach its goals. So when we have a holistic approach, like as a person, I should know where am I contributing to my organizational goals. That will motivate me as an individual, and that will motivate me as a team, and all the teams completely are getting collaborated and delivering the value which the team wants. So that's completely talking about having a holistic approach, not just not just about your deliverables, not just about your team's deliverables, but overall objectives. And then keep it simple and practical. We may not have we may have a complicated process with n number of steps. So whenever we have such process, we have to revisit those processes or frameworks if all of these are really adding value or not, right? Whether this is practical or not. Only because you read somewhere in ITIL 4 or Prince 2 manual or PMP manual, you need not take it as it is and try doing it in verbatim. No, it may not be practical for your environment. So understand what's good for your environment. So any type of framework, you have to adopt, and then you have to adapt as per your business environment. So you have to keep it simple so that everyone is able to understand that, and they are able to get the output of it, and also make it in a practical way, achievable, right? Something which is achievable easily, and something which is really making sense. Optimize and automate this is a new principle added to the ITIL practitioner guidance. So this is the latest one. So optimize and automate. So now, because of the digitization which is going in full speed, every organization talks about automate. But before even getting into automation, first we need to optimize. Optimize what you do. Optimize what you want to do. If you have a series of 10 steps, first see within those 10 steps, do you have anything which does not add any value? Do you have any step out of these 10 which is getting repetitive? right? So first, clean the noise out of it, reduce the waste, and then once you have the proper process, only then you automate. And while you automate, in case if you are having a human intervention, make sure that this human intervention is adding more value than the automation. This is being like a control which is making sure that the automation doesn't go faltered, right? So these are the 7 guiding principles. If you go deep while going to the course or through the publication, I'm sure this will help you a lot. As I said, these guiding principles are not just for any service management framework or any best practice framework. Even in your personal life, you will be able to implement these guiding principles. These are so beautiful and simple that anyone can easily grab it. Okay. As of now, do we have any questions? Okay, and we were talking about practices which are processes along with many other resources which we need to use to make sure that the service management activities go forward. So the practices totally are 34. 14 are general management practices, 17 service management practices, 3 technical management practices. Okay, we have also given the list of these practices for you to go through that. So architecture management is something new within ITIL V4, and information security was in V3 as well. Measurement and reporting, portfolio management, relationship management mostly talks about how to maintain relationships with all the other stakeholders. This was business relationship management in ITIL V3. And supplier management, financial management, continual improvement. Again, you have a new practice here, workforce and talent management. This is to talk about starting from creating a plan where you need what type of skill set you need and how many people you need, to hiring the guys and then training them. All that is part of the workforce and talent management. Then service management practices, all of them are were part of ITIL V3. Only thing is, in previous slide, we had organizational change management. That talks about not just change management within the service management framework, but whenever you need to take a big step at an organizational level, organizational change management is a very big subject. So ITIL V4 has thrown some light on that aspect, how you convince all the stakeholders that you need to change the way you do your business, right? That's an example of organizational change management. But if you see in service management practices, we have change control, which is specific to your infrastructure changes or your process changes, or like whatever change management we were doing in ITIL V3, that is getting covered in change control process here. And IT asset management, in V3 and before, we had service asset and configuration management. But if we see this slide, we have asset management separate and service configuration management as a separate process. And there was a deliberate need for breaking these two, because in the previous version, where IT service asset and configuration management, focus was very little given to IT asset management, because of which ITIL practitioners had to rely on external frameworks for IT asset management. But now ITIL V4 has addressed that, and IT asset management is a practice area within ITIL V4 itself. And release management, catalog, request, monitoring an event, these were all part of it. And service design was a life cycle stage in V4, but it's limited to a practice in ITIL V4. This is one major change here. And service desk was a function in ITIL V3, but here it became a practice area. And rest of them are same. And there are 3 technical management practices: infrastructure and platform management, software development and management, deployment management. If you see, software development management was never part of ITIL V3 or even before. Focus was very little on these areas. But now, because IT service management framework, ITIL is obviously ITIL is a leader within the IT service management frameworks. So it's like monopoly for ITIL. So despite that, it could not address few things aligning to the other environments like software development or project management activities. But now, because IT service management has become so important in this digitization era, it has considered the agile movement and DevOps movement and all these flexible methodologies, and that's the reason we have included the software development part of it as well. So this is where you can talk about your continuous integration and continuous deployment, where you may have more number of releases in a day or a month compared to 1 release a month or 2 releases a month, right? So it depends on the organization and the kind of work they do again. So these 3 are the technical management practices. Okay. Amer, do we have any questions so far?
Yeah, Harry, you can go on. I would like to ask something, but I'll keep it in the end. Let's go on. Let's finish the material.
I'm trying to move on to the next slide, but it's stopping. Okay. Yes. And lastly, we have the certification path. We have the ITIL Foundation, and then we have the specialist stream and strategist and leader. Here, ITIL strategist is a common for both these streams, managing professional and strategic professional. And what we have for managing professional is like these are the guys who actually manage these IT services. These are the practitioners and team managers who take care of the operations. And ITIL strategic leader, these are the guys who understand how IT can influence the overall business and how IT can be realigned according to the changing business needs. So that's the next level of understanding. So senior guys or executive level guys or someone who is really involved in creating new services, those guys have to take this ITIL strategic leader. And for people who have been halfway through the ITIL 3 expert level, those guys have this certification called Managing Professional Transition. If you have reached at least 17 credits within your ITIL V3 streams, you can directly take this exam and then become ITIL V4 certified. Okay, that's bringing us to the end of the presentation. Over to you, Amir. Amir, over to you.
Yeah, Harry, thanks a lot. I'm just trying to get the control back. All right, so we have one more slide. Slide now. All right, okay. So the examination body for the ITIL V3 and V4, in fact, in V3 there were more bodies. Now in V4, Actually, People Cert is the one of the main bodies who's conducting exams on the behalf of XLS. I think I covered this in the beginning also. So, and we are a partner of People Cert ourselves for Prince 2 and for both ITIL. And we do conduct exams and training, both of them. Now, in terms of questions for anything related to our overview and Harry's overview on changes in ITIL and ITIL 4, you guys can post it or directly speak up also. I don't have a problem. So let's go ahead with the questions. Harry, I had one question to begin with. I mean, since ITIL is talking, like if you see the full form of it also says information technology, IT. How do you apply this basically in other industries?
Okay. ITIL full form is Information Technology Infrastructure Library, right? Earlier, when it was published, it was talking only about how to manage your infrastructure in order to increase the value of the services being delivered with the help of the infrastructure, IT infrastructure. But over the years of time, the meaning or the acronym for ITIL has been subsided, because ITIL can, like if you see the, for example, if you see the guiding principles, these guiding principles can be implemented anywhere else, not even if it's not related to IT. And even if it was in ITIL V3, the service lifecycle stage, even though it was mentioning IT, it could be very useful to non-IT. To put in a simple way, it used to say ITIL service strategy was the first stage. Service strategy, design, transition, operations, and continual service improvement. Now, if I have to give you an analogy of non-IT for the same service lifecycle, what if I want to become an entrepreneur? I first need to have a strategy, like plan. So that becomes my strategy lifecycle stage. And then when I say strategy, I'm talking about having an idea in my mind with lot of assumptions I have. But all these assumptions may not be true. So I'll have to move on to the next one. So the idea which was on my mind, I'll have to put that on paper. So I'll have to put all my thoughts on paper. That's service design. And this is where I would put all my thoughts on paper, give them a name for a planning, whether it is service like supplier management or information security or anything. So first you have your business idea, that's strategy, and then you collate all the information needed to get into the business. That is your service design. And then you know what to do and you know how to do. And now what's left is starting to go through the change. From idea to the implementation, you have a bridge. That's the transition. So that's service transition. Within service transition, you will get all the resources which you made in the service design, whatever list you made in the service design, that I need so and so resources, I am allocating so and so budget, and this is my market positioning, and this is my customer segment, all these things. To do that, you are doing your groundwork in service transition. So as of now, everything was in mind and paper. Service transition is the stage where you're actually doing it. Now, next one is service operations. Service operations, we complete the transition and we are making our product or service open to the public, right? So forget about IT. Let's say I want to start a business like a restaurant business. I have a strategy, I have design in the field, in the way of what type of menu I would want to have for my customers, and where would I segment it, what type of market I would select, where would I position my restaurant, is it very costly one or medium range or less range, all that market positioning. and then transition, where I do the interiors, or I hire the chefs, I do the testing of the chefs, I create my inventory, or I design my menu card, all that. And operations, I make it to the public, and then I start getting the feedback, and I try improving wherever there is a improvement area or scope. That is continual service improvement. So if you see, what the terms we used were of IT, but these terms can be very much used for anything related to non-IT as well. Did it answer your query, Amir?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I have Mukhtar now raising his hand for a long time. Mukhtar, you can go on, actually speak up if you have the mic. Mukhtar, we can't hear you. So if you have a question, please either speak up or put it in the chat board. Shabir, you had something?
ITIL V3, the second was part of it, isn't it? Management process have been defined within a single module.
Harry, can you hear Shabir?
No, not at all.
Oh. Hari, thanks for your presentation. I would like to ask you one question about this V3 and V4 comparison. So,
Shabir, your voice is very feeble. Do you mind posting it on the chat window?
okay.
Your voice is very feeble.
All right. Is software development practice can be replacement of agile? Is one of the questions from Mukhtar.
Okay, Mukhtar, agile is a way of doing things. So software development is the job which we are doing, and agile or waterfall is a way of doing it. It's not a replacement for each other. So software development or your infrastructure management or your infrastructure development or deployment, that is the work or activity which we are doing, and agile is a way of doing it. Agile, if we see the dictionary definition, it is being flexible. So we like that is like you talk to the customer more frequently than in waterfall method. That's a main difference between waterfall and agile. So your question, as it says, can be replacement. No, it is not replacement. It's nowhere related. Agile is a way of working.
All right. There is another one, Harry. I suppose you finished on your explanation on this software development.
Yes.
Yeah. So Rizwan had asked, how is the career progression in ITIL?
Okay. ITIL became a mandatory thing for anyone who is starting into IT service management. The reason is, forget ITIL V4, even if you are looking at ITIL V3, it starts talking about the details like defining the service. First, we need to understand what service is and what is service giving to the customer. What is this service giving to me, and what I as a service provider doing to deliver this service. And it's not a button press that I click the button and the service gets delivered. There is a lot of work behind that. So ITIL talks about all the front end and back end. And once you deliver, so what happens before you deliver the service and what happens after you deliver the service? You give the support to the customer. So your service delivery and your service support, all that. So basically ITIL talks about all the key concepts of service management. And to be even, like if I have to take a step back, if you see the way we do business, forget about ITIL or forget about any other framework. We have been doing IT services for at least 100 years from now. IBM is 100 years old. I can remember IBM as the oldest company, at least for my knowledge, it's 100 years old now. So they have been into information technology. And we are saying that ITIL has started only 30 years back. So what was IBM doing it? Was IBM failing? No, it was not failing, but it was doing it differently. So ITIL is one of the frameworks which got created for companies so that they can use the best practices and do the right thing the first time itself, right? So that's what these frameworks teach us. And if you are talking about career progression, I'm not sure what your current background is, but if I have to answer this from a context of a fresh graduate who wish to come into the IT career area, he would be passed out understanding few technologies like Java or .NET or AI or whatever it is, data science or whatever it is, right? But now when he jumps into the career, joining some company, he has two options. He either joins a product-based organization where this company is delivering their own products and delivering the support for these customers, or the other one, he might be joining a company like IBM or TCS or Wipro or some PwC. These companies offer services to n number of external customers. So we should know how all these things function, right? So we should know, again, going back to that, we should understand what services, how is your company delivering your service, how is your company giving your post delivery support, and what all your company does to deliver this service. Understanding this will definitely put you in a better way. I'm not saying it is mandatory, but it is definitely good to know. That's the reason now if we attend any ITIL V4, we don't only see people from infrastructure background, but you see people from software development, or you see people from even business strategy or the sales team joining the ITIL sessions. It's not only about the certification you need. It's about what you understand or what you gain out of the subject. And service management is a very big area. It is talking about you have skills, you have your capabilities, and you have your resources. So how will you transform your resources into capabilities? And how will you combine your resources and capabilities to deliver a service to the customer? This is service management. And IT service management, as we said, it's a very big area. And ITIL is one framework which talks about how to do IT service management in a better way. Does it answer your question?
Rizwan, your voice is not.
ITIL is more, strong. Am I audible now? Am I audible now?
Yes, better now.
I was asking, this is more of on the general lines. The ITIL is more strong on which part of the world? Like some part of the world prefers PMP over Prince. So is there an equivalent for ITIL also?
Fortunately or unfortunately, ITIL plays a monopoly in service management. In the recent 5-6 years, because ITIL unfortunately could not update their courseware aligning to the changing agile or DevOps environment, there are a couple of new things which recently came up, like very SM, but to be honest, it did not reach even like anywhere closer to ITIL. So if you are comparing PMP and Prince2, I have an answer saying that Prince2 is more preferred in UK and Australia and little bit of Canada compared to PMP, which is a global reach. But if you are talking about a service management framework, I would say ITIL is still the leader in it. And that's the reason even the other frameworks, like there is a framework from Microsoft which says Microsoft Operations Framework, but that's been taken from ITIL framework itself. Microsoft was a very early contributor into the ITIL framework, and whatever they contributed, after that they made it a proprietary framework called Microsoft Operations Framework, which Microsoft uses it. And as we mentioned some time back, ITIL is a public framework. If you are using it for your company, and if I'm using for my company, we are not paying any royalty or premium to Axelos. But if you are wanting to use MOF, that is Microsoft Operations Framework, you got to do those formalities with Microsoft. And again, another alternative was IT4, now numeric 4 IT. Okay, this is from the open group, which is slowly gaining importance. But again, at the same time, whatever framework you have, they have to complement each other. It's not that ITIL works or makes you work as a standalone framework. No, ITIL has a lot of concepts coming from your Six Sigma or Lean, and it has few concepts. It has few concepts coming from some other framework, something from risk management, something from quality management. So no framework is completely standalone. They have to complement each other. So if you are using ITIL, you have a best framework for IT service management. But again, you can't have ITIL guidance in front of you and run a multi-million-dollar project. You got to have a Prince2 or a PMI or something else related to project management. Okay? Does it answer your question?
I think he got dropped out for some reason due to the network. We have 2 more questions on the chat board, if you could see.
Okay, so first one I see how SACM, that is Service Asset and Configuration Management, is being managed in the V4 as it was treated as single entity in V3 in transition stage. Yes, you are right, Shabir. This was a drawback we had in ITIL V3. If you go through the service transition module or publication in ITIL V3, the IT asset management was only a couple of paragraphs. It does not talk much about that. But the need for having proper IT asset management process, like if you have to talk about the activities within IT asset management, starting from procuring a new asset to disposing that asset, you will have a definite process, which is nowhere described in V3. That is the reason the focus was completely on the configuration management. Now, to eliminate that drawback, in ITIL V4, focus has been given to asset management separately and configuration management separately, so that they are not mixed and the essence, like the focus goes to only one area. So that your question itself has an answer. That's the reason it has been treated that way.
All right, he got it. Thanks a lot, he said. We have another one from Mukhtar.
Okay, we have typically 2 separate teams for build and for transition, while ITIL considers this as one stage. Is this a best practice for ITIL V3, or this is deviation from standard? Okay. Yes, you're right. Usually the build and build team and the deploy team are separate. Even here, once you get into the publication, it's not focusing that one team has to do both. It's only that here, if you see the ITIL 4, we have release management as a separate practice area and deployment as a separate practice area. We are not talking about one which happened in ITIL V3. In ITIL V3, it was a combined process called release and deployment management. But now it is separated. It is release management and then it is deployment management. Deployment management came into technical management practice, and release management practice was into service management practice. And you're asking, is this a deviation from standard? Again, ITIL is not a standard. It is only a framework, a best practice framework. So you have to understand this. Take whatever you feel is making sense for your environment and drop the rest. So this is not a one-stop solution for all the issues you have in your organization. It's only a guide. So take what is needed for you, or like maybe for your organization, whatever you read in release management doesn't make sense. If it is not making sense, it's not ITIL's fault or it's not your fault. It is okay. Take something which can be feasible for your environment. Does it answer your question, Mukhtar?
I think he has some mic issue. We can go to the next one. If Mukhtar, you have any question, please come back to us. Topaz, you are raising your hand, so you can speak up.
Hi, Harry. Thanks a lot for the presentation. It was an excellent one. I am not from, I'm actually from a software background, and I run a software company. This was been really an issue, and I think that ITIL 4 is really filling the gap and addressing one of the critical practical issues I've been facing for a very long time. Because in software, you must be knowing, like we are into development of software, and we usually follow a Scrum methodology, which is actually Agile framework. But then, like, usually we work with IT managers who follow a traditional practice where they don't get the Agile way of doing things. And I feel like now somebody who is going to who is certified or who's have the knowledge of ITIL 4 would be of really of great support and relief, actually, that they can understand the Agile methodology and work. Now here my question is, like, I see there are a lot of areas which is, it's not kind of overlapping, that is understand there is a certain elements of software development which is there in Agile is also in ITIL. Now, usually, like these kind of software service management, there are a lot of different parties and different companies are involved. Now, the people who are making the software as a different company, and there are many other parties involved. Somebody is doing the project management, somebody is doing the product management, marketing, and things like that. Everyone is going to, now all of them we cannot expect to have the knowledge of ITIL, and probably say the manager from the client who is certified ITIL, will he be able to, is there like ITIL addresses that part, maybe like, some element of, or some light on other frameworks is explained or taught in ITIL, or in, because looks like, maybe it will replace, and there should not be a conflict between the practices that is specifically prescribed in Scrum, which is specifically for software, and ITIL having certain areas which covers broadly on, not specific to an industry. Am I clear? Because I see maybe this could be a next problem, but I'm not sure like whether ITIL addresses that area or not.
Okay.
Am I clear?
Yes, thanks for being clear. Now, First, I would acknowledge what you said in as part of your question, that ITIL is filling the gap, making sure that the IT managers have an understanding of what software development is. I completely agree with you on that part. I couldn't agree more. Yes, that was a gap, and that is being filled by this, as you rightly said. And now coming to your question, ITIL will not be followed by anyone for doing the software development. As you said, you are using a Scrum methodology, and as a project manager or as a product developer, you have your own framework. And the reason those areas have been covered in ITIL is to make sure that the infrastructure manager or the IT service manager has an understanding of how software is being developed and how it is getting overlapped in the IT service management lifecycle. If you see, we have two things: a project and a service. It's like a chicken and egg story. You can't answer whether a project started first or a service started first. Like if I am running a business in an organization, let's say I have a CRM system, which is my core product, and my CRM project is ideally a project. Like that's the output of my product. But while it is being consumed by the customers, there may be what I am doing now is support, which is ideally the operations. Here in this area, while you provide the support, post-product support, you can use ITIL, right? But at the same time, let's say one of your customers have requested a enhancement to your functionalities, then it becomes a minor project again, right? So that is becoming part of your operations. So to help the IT service managers in these areas, ITIL 4 has covered a little bit of agile. Like whenever customer environments are little fastly changing, these people will have an idea to address that. That's the reason it's being mentioned here. But for software development folks, you still have your agile or your Scrum methodology or any of those. Those would be your Bibles. So ITIL, it can be useful for someone at a senior level to understand the different nuances of IT software development or service management or project development. But it draws the boundaries within that. It can't be treated like a complete guidance for the different subject. But it will also talk about other frameworks which are like from which we are seeking inputs in developing the ITIL 4 modules.
So ITIL suggests or promotes also the I mean to say the guys who are going through ITIL.
Mm-hmm.
The ITIL also will it suggests to have the knowledge of other softwares, and it does not actually enforcing or conforming to one particular way of doing or getting the service done, right?
Exactly, you're right.
Okay, thank you.
Mukhtar, was your question answered, or did we create any confusion there? Mukhtar, Shabir, anyone?
Mukhtar said he is fine, and Mukhtar said thanks, and Shabir is also saying that he's fine. So,
Okay.
Thank you, Harry. It was been a wonderful session. A lot of knowledge has been shared. Any further questions also, you guys can come back to us. We are welcoming you for any further queries. Please post it as an email. You have our email address from PMO Bytes, info@pmobytes.com. We will also be having a training next week. So I'm sure some of you are joining the training even. So we'll see you there physically, inshallah, in the classroom. Anything further to add, Harry? Otherwise, we'll end the session.
No, clear from my side. And thanks everyone for attending the webinar.
All right. Thank you very much for attending the webinar. See you then.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
Harry. Thank you, Amir.